A Harvard business professor and economist recently interviewed over 5,000 Americans. He asked them how they thought wealth was distributed in America. Here's how 92% of Americans, Democrats and Republicans alike, envisioned an ideal distribution of wealth. The wealthiest 10% of the nation are around 10 to 20 times richer than the poorest 10%. But even the poor of the nation aren't necessarily poor. The poverty line has stayed almost completely off the chart. We have a strong middle class with a smooth transition into the upper class. 9 out of 10 Americans chose this model as ideal. But let's move on. This is what most Americans think the distribution of wealth is. Even though it's not as equitable as the ideal model, this isn't too bad. The wealthiest are around 100 times better off than the bottom 30% of America, and the middle class is starting to struggle but is still relatively healthy. Sadly, this isn't even close to the reality. Here's the actual distribution of wealth in America. The poorest don't even register on this chart, and the middle class is barely distinguishable from the lower class. The top 10% have the majority of the wealth. The wealth of the top 5% of Americans stretches off the chart. The top 1% has 10 times more money than we can even show. Here's his stack of cash restacked. 1% of America has 40% of the nation's wealth, while the bottom 80% only has 7% of the wealth. Unfortunately, not all of us are lucky enough to be in the top 1%. In 1971, the middle class made up roughly 61% of the United States economy. Since then, the middle class has decreased by 10% due to exacerbating incomes and wages. In fact, in 2000, the average middle class income was approximately $58,000. However, today the average middle class income is around $53,000. This is a staggering 8.5% decrease.
Here's the reality. If we want to reduce income inequality, we need to boost economic growth.
1/4 of Americans have jobs that pay $10 an hour or less. Walmart and Kelly Tip Agency, the top 2 employers in America, are prime examples.
Good middle-class jobs used to come from manufacturing, automobile industry in the Midwest in the United States. Those jobs are tending to move towards the less developed world, and what's replacing them are service jobs like Kelly, like Walmart, and those jobs just don't pay the wages that middle-class jobs did in manufacturing before that.
Temporary jobs are becoming more common in the workplace. In fact, 1 out of 10 jobs are filled through temp agencies, such as Ryan Howard's from the NBC sitcom The Office.
Ryan Howard from the temp agency?
Ryan is a temp, and that means that he could go at any time.
Ryan is a temporary worker, makes no money.
If I had to, I could clean out my desk in 5 seconds, and nobody would ever know I had ever been here.
The struggle to find a well-paying and full-time job has increased dramatically since the recession of 2008. More than 2.5 million Americans are working part-time jobs because of lack of availability of full-time positions.
And businesses have found that that's more to their benefit, that in many ways they're better off hiring 2 part-time workers than they are 1 full-time worker.
I still know of 3 Spanish teachers that graduated with me who still don't have a full-time job. They worked at some schools part-time, but it was only for like a semester. They don't have any benefits at all. They don't have insurance. They don't have any other health benefits. They don't get vacations or sick days or anything like that.
I'm so glad that the president is out there today saying that we're going to build jobs and build our economy from the middle class out. It's really important.
As a result of the ever-diminishing full-time job opportunities and lower income, middle-class debt is rising. In 1989, the debt-to-income ratio for an average American family was 58%. Today, it is a staggering 154%. Moreover, the total U.S. household debt in 1980 was $1.4 trillion, and in 2006 it grew to $13.7 trillion, which played a huge role in the financial crisis of 2008. Consumer debt in the U.S. has risen by 1,700% since 1971. The problem still remains looming over our heads. As families struggle to pay their debts and surmount everyday financial difficulties, there is less money left over for them to save for their future as well as their children's future. As a matter of fact, the amount of student loan debt in the United States recently surpassed the $1 trillion mark. The cycle continues as college students struggle to find jobs in their major.
I graduated in May 2011 and I started looking for a job right away. So they thought everything I had was great, my resume, but they didn't like the fact that I didn't have any experience at all. Of course, I had just graduated from college and all the experience I had was student teaching.
Although there are many issues facing Congress in 2014, their #1 priority should be to save the vanishing middle class.
With a high inequality, you've got a small class that's got a lot of money and a larger class that doesn't have much. That can lead to conflict between the two classes, and that's definitely a possibility.
Our economy will grow, our families will prosper, our nation will continue to be #1 to the extent that we invest in the middle class and those aspiring to it.